Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's WorkSafe Month webinar, The Heart is in It. I'm Stephanie from WorkSafe Tasmania and also the coordinator of WorkSafe Tasmania Month. I'll also be your moderator for this morning's session. I do also apologise for the slight delay in the start of the webinar this morning. I had a few technical issues, but we will get started. So I would appreciate you taking a few moments to look at the current slide, to read information about how the sessions delivered during WorkSafe Month. I'd now like to take a few moments to run through how you can interact with this morning's webinar. So you should see something like this on your computer screen in the upper right hand corner. You're likely listening in using your computer's default speaker system by default, I should say. However, if you would prefer to join by phone, just select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. You will also have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenters by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these questions and address them at the end of today's presentation. We are also recording our webinars during WorkSafe Tasmania Month and will progressively make them available on the WorkSafe Tas website. And lastly, before everyone does leave today's webinar, you will receive a survey on the presentation, and we'd certainly appreciate you completing that survey, telling us about your experience with today's presentation and how you found the webinar format too. And just before I do introduce our two presenters today, just one technical note is that the session does have a couple of videos which we were meant to play, but due to some technical difficulties that won't happen today. But those who have hooked into the webinar, we will provide you with the YouTube link to those videos at the end of today's session. So it's now my pleasure to hand you over to Klaus and Ivan. So Klaus is from KBC, Klaus Bauer Consulting, and Ivan is from Happy Ground, and they are presenting today's webinar, The Heart is in It. Welcome Klaus, welcome Ivan.
Good morning, Stephanie, and good morning, everyone, and thank you for such a lovely start to the session. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm just trying to forward the slides, arrow down, yeah. So the heart is in it, which is really about accessing the heart's power to improve in a preventative way our mental health, the engagement with staff, between each other, with customers, clients, but also to start to work on something that is growing in the organizational market training offer, which is about happiness of staff that is related to well-being and so on. So, and as we know, when we are happy, we are well functioning, we are outgoing, we are focused, and so on. I just talk you through the first slides. So we briefly share with you some of the issues around mental health at work in the global research, good practice at the moment. We look at mental health and existing good practices in workplaces. We briefly touch on community mental health programs. And then, of course, we take you to the subject of heart intelligence by briefly touching on emotional intelligence. then progressing to heart intelligence. And then we go into some practical exercises where we discuss the function of the heart, but quickly want to go to something that is not just a fluffy word, but something you can train, where emotional heart intelligence becomes trainable, becomes available to you. And for us, it's a refined way of training and accessing our emotional or deeper levels of intelligence. And we know that in some way, because we talk about my heart is in it in the workplace, but we also say about generous people at work in the community. They have a big heart, or they have a brave heart, a strong heart. So we make reference to the heart, but in a sense, it's very little what we know about it. The video clips are quite important, so I encourage everyone to get the links and watch them on YouTube, because they don't share a general staff person. They share about staff which may be in your organization that have mental health issues. They disclose it, are very likely don't disclose it, and how heart intervention, heart practice, heart programs have helped them immensely in the past. We also talk about what programs are potentially available to workplaces, and what does such programs may look like. And I pass to Ivan for the first few slides.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'll talk to you briefly about mental health at work and give a bit of an overview about what's happening in Australia. So in terms of mental health at work, I suppose the question is, why is mental health and preventative mental health a topic for workplaces? Well, we know from research and also organisational practice that there are a range of triggers that can bring on stress for an employee, and can also contribute to serious problems like anxiety or depression. So the first one is when high-level work-related demands are greater than worker can comfortably manage. So that's kind of a good definition, if you like, of stress, which can, if it's excessive, lead to anxiety, depression and things like that. There are some other struggles, of course, for employees. They might include poor work practices, which I suppose were more of a thing in the past, but still do go on. And also interpersonal conflict. Now, this may or may not, of course, be related to the job, but as we all know, it does happen at workplace from time to time. Management is also really, really important, and leadership skills and so forth. There's also, of course, issues around power. Sometimes with some people, it's kind of ego-driven generally. That can have an impact on relationships. Of course, what we're after is supportive and helpful relationships, which are, very good for all staff and assist, I guess, relationships between staff and their managers. Workplace culture is a really big one. I guess on the negative side, at one end it can be, if it's a bad culture, it can be things like bullying and discrimination and so forth. At the other end, it might be things like longer hours, after hours work, weekend work, that kind of thing. But of course, as with all of these things, if we look on the other side, a good workplace culture can make people feel absolutely fantastic. It can give them a great reason to get out of bed in the morning, and can really improve people's mental health. So we need to look at these, I guess, on the positive side as well as the negative. The last point on this slide, of course, staff can come to work with mental health conditions. So that's something that people need to be aware of. Workplace can make things, I guess, better or worse for people's mental health. But of course, sometimes mental health problems are something that we bring to work. All right, so just the next slide. So just something on the consequences for workplaces if people are suffering either from excessive stress or perhaps a mental health problem. The first thing is they can lead to physical and mental illness at the most extreme end. A consequence of that is that you get absenteeism, increases in sick leave, and workers' compensation claims at the most extreme end. In terms of people's work performance, you get things like a lack of concentration, poor work focus. That can be both in terms of doing the work itself or working with customers and clients. And of course, that's such a massive thing. If you want to have a really well-functioning workplace, you need to have individuals who are happy and peaceful, and that affects their interrelationship with the outside world, if you like, outside the business. In the end, productivity can be affected as well if people are stressed or have a mental health problem. There's a great book by a guy called Sean Acor who wrote a book called The Happiness Advantage. And one of the really great bits of research that he talks about is research with doctors who are peaceful and happy versus those that are a little bit more stressed. And what the research shows is that people who are peaceful and happy make better decisions, and in this case doctors, and they also do it faster than those who are unhappy or stressed. So productivity can be really affected by our mental health. Another thing is creativity. I won't go into that in too much detail, but essentially our brains work better when they're calmer, and creativity is one thing that really benefits when we feel happy and more peaceful. The end result for all of this, though, is if mental health isn't good, of course there's a burden on health and welfare services. I guess on this final point, found some information from the US essentially indicating that costs of welfare services may be, poor mental health may be underreported. In the US, for instance, employers spend around 200 to 300% more money on indirect costs of healthcare in the form of absenteeism, sick days, lower productivity and so forth than they spend on their healthcare payments, because of course in the States healthcare is a part of your work. Alright, so just looking at Australia now, move on to the next slide. So just some stats here on the impact of poor mental health in Australia. So around 3.2 days per year are lost to workplace stress, but this rises really significantly for people with things like depression. So I found on the internet one stat which says it's 12 times greater for people with depression, for instance, than the general workforce. Mental illness is the main reason workers take extended sick leave or become incapacitated. So that's just hugely significant for everyone, and just shows the enormity of the problem and the importance of doing something about it. As I suggested earlier, with the States, United States, rates of depression and anxiety are underreported. So when we see figures, we can usually assume that the numbers are actually quite a bit bigger. Now, I found this in a number of areas. I thought, boy, this is high, but it seems to be the case that 20% of working age population are affected by common disorders like depression and anxiety. So it's just a huge, huge problem. And workplace stress also affects the bottom line. In Australia, it's $14.8 billion per year. That was one estimate. Okay, so what should we do about mental health? Well, there's a lot we can do, but just a couple of quotes that I found that I thought were really interesting. One was from a Harvard Business School professor, a fellow called Michael Porter, and he recommends employers mount an aggressive approach to wellness prevention, screening and active management of chronic conditions. And this is coming from someone who is interested in business. So not only is good mental health good for people, just as individuals in their daily lives, but it's also starting to affect the bottom line in a lot of places. And Arianna Huffington, she's written a fantastic book called Thrive, which I recommend you get. And she also has the Huffington Post, which is a really good website. She says, the voice of sanity is getting louder, which is great in a burnt out world, but the repair process is not keeping up with the damage process. Yeah, just a couple of really interesting quotes, I think, from some important commentators. So, mentally healthy workplaces. what are the sorts of things that can be done for a mentally healthy workplace? Now I've found 6 sort of main areas or interventions that can take place, and I'll just go through those with you now. The first one is, as we sort of touched on earlier, designing and managing work to minimise harm. So a lot can be done around what workers actually do, so that they don't get too stressed out, and which might lead to further problems. The second thing is promoting protective factors at an organisational level. So we're talking about things like anti-bullying policies, which obviously would have an impact, assuming they're implemented well. The third one, which we've got in red there, is enhanced personal resilience, and that's really where our heart-based programs sit. I guess they fit in a category similar to you know, psychology, mindfulness, stuff like that. But we'll talk obviously more about the heart-based programs and their impact on personal resilience shortly. A fourth one is promoting and facilitating early help seeking. So most businesses now have an employee assistance program, so basically counselling, which is obviously a useful intervention. The other thing is, number 5, is supporting workers' recovery from mental illness. And again, we've highlighted that in red because we think and we know, and I know from my own personal experience, that the heart-based programs can have a really big impact there. And finally, increased awareness of mental health and to reduce stigma. So I guess Are You OK Day might be an example of that, stuff that Beyond Blue does. Those sorts of awareness programs are becoming more prevalent, and you see them in workplaces now, which is really good. Okay, so that third dot point we talked about in the last slide on approaches to personal resilience, well, there's a number of those, and I just want to talk about those briefly, given that's really one of the areas where the heart programs sit. Now, traditional practices tend to involve both the mind and the body. So they include things like cognitive behavioural therapy, based stress management, resilience training. So that's really about changing our thoughts, getting our thoughts to be more positive. Can be very effective. Coaching and mentoring is also an approach that's taken with Happy Ground. For instance, I have a coaching program, a happiness coaching program for workplaces, and there are many others around as well, of course. And the third one there is physical activity programs, and we see this in workplaces very often now, is that workplaces organise, you know, a game of soccer at lunchtime, or you know, organise squash activities, or you know, whatever it might be, running or whatever it might be. But physical activity is obviously really big, and you know, there's proven benefits for that. But as I said, those traditional programs involve the mind and the body. Our approach is different. It involves the non-physical heart, or the centre of our feeling.
And in some way, thank you, Ivan, in some way, for us that is very logical. Of course, when we start to talk about the heart, there's a fluffy component perhaps there, or perceived as being fluffy. But how we feel is largely based on the condition of our emotional world, and for us that is clearly related to the heart. And cognitive approaches, of course, cognitive therapy, can have their limitations, as when the mind becomes very busy or when negative thoughts take over, then you kind of try to train the monkey that jumps from branch to branch, from thought to thought. You try to train the monkey with a second monkey, which is the brain. And in terms of some of the personal spiritual development practices, I look at Buddhism, for example. They have said for several thousand years that the mind is a lower level of consciousness within us. So there are other parts of us that add value to us as a human being, to our growth, to our personal growth, and of course naturally to our spiritual growth too. I need to say though that heart learning, heart-based therapy, heart-based programs are not related to a particular belief. Yeah. So what are the functions of the second heart, or center of feeling, as Ivan has just shared? it naturally balances individually, person by person, the mind, brain, and heart functions. So it brings more to the surface in some way who we really are within that perfect balance or within that greater balance. It removes emotional burdens. It removes what I sometimes call a collection of negativities, emotions, experience of the past that are not positive, but somehow we still carry them with us. And an example in the workplace, maybe I've been upset by a peer, I've been upset by a manager, and then I still resent that person, that event for some time to come. Really hard to let go of. Of course, when that person next time approaches me, I still carry that burden. And so that's the kind of clearing we're talking about in terms of the natural functions of the heart. Additionally, the heart generates a level of calmness, mental quiet, and clarity that in turn, of course, is actively assisting with the reduction of stress. And calmness, I often like to add to that, is it is very difficult to approach a customer service person, uh, a team worker, a peer, a manager when they're busy, when they're totally immersed in their work. It is normally the calm and relaxed yet hardworking person too that is much more approachable. And of course, approachability then translates into teamwork, project work, and so on, or just a good sales being closed. It produces its own radiant energy that people can feel. And perhaps that can be explained. Sometimes we meet people and we say to them, wow, you're glowing, you look happy, you look radiant. So of course our own heart in a sense is perceiving those qualities in other people. Um, Following on from that, the heart generates an overall positive feeling and attitude because emotional burdens and related negativities are cleansed by the natural function of the heart. It generates an innate natural happiness, and as the heart is connected to our emotional world, it also increases directly and step-by-step emotional intelligence. And this is just a cute little picture. Happiness is an inside job. The heart also can be described as the center of happiness, that kind of joy, happiness that is not related to external stimulation. Let's do a quick excursion to emotional intelligence. And of course, there's a connection there. Emotional intelligence, one definition is it's the ability to perceive emotion, to access, generate emotions, so they can assist our thinking processes, also to understand emotions and emotional knowledge, and to reflectively regulate emotion, in particular negative emotion or unhelpful emotions, with a view to promote emotional and intellectual growth. Um, we like to look at emotional intelligence in terms of workplaces as in a slightly simple definition or a simpler form of a definition. So emotional intelligence at work simply means to relate well to others, to everyone, to work well without inner interference of being busy with whatever has happened in the past, but also to feel well and to be well, and to be present, and of course to have reduced absenteeism. And one colleague once said it's all about relationship, and of course relationship is hugely supported by our emotional world, our emotional or heart intelligence. And in terms of that clearing in the heart, I find it quite intriguing. Stephen Covey, quite well known for his publications, including the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, he talks frequently about the function of the heart. For example, free your heart from hatred, forgive, free your mind from worries, live simply and appreciate what you have, give more, expect less. Um, In terms of workplaces, that resonates well with also the immense piece of work Jim Collins has done, where he defines the emotional intelligence of highly successful leaders of immensely successful companies. That was the target of the research. And he says they have qualities that point to quite evolved emotional intelligence. In fact, it's described in Jim Collins' book as similar to spiritual aspirants, spiritual seekers, because they have qualities like humility there, a lot of heart, a lot of warmth, a lot of care, less focus on self, more focus on others, and yet, of course, naturally, they're hardworking leaders. So what is this heart? So, and for us, the heart is something quite meaningful, helpful, immensely special. And this is based on over 12 years. And this is about the length of time heart learning, heart-based programs have been in Australia. So, yeah, programs in the community, programs in workplaces. So we are talking about the non-physical heart, second heart center of feeling. Every emotional action, reaction, thought, expressed, not expressed, is directly related to the heart and to the condition of the heart, activeness of the heart, openness of the heart. They are all qualities related to the heart. In its core function, the heart is the center of calmness, inner happiness or joy, but also the center of attentive, caring, and loving connection to others. Now that sounds perhaps a bit strong for a workplace, but we know when we are receiving customer service, when we are receiving attention from other workers, peers, management, if the care is not there, we can feel something is missing. There is an interaction happening, but there's some ingredient missing, which is connecting at a deeper level with that other person. Heart also very important in terms of decision making. We have this loose saying, follow your heart. Not sure many people would say what that means, or some people even say, look, I will never do that. But we need to also be reminded in the business world, in business training, business coaching, there is often talk about intuition, gut feel, as being of equal value in decision making as sound research, sound information collection. So heart intelligence means in that context then it's to be intelligent with minimal emotional interference, to be less busy with self or others and have access to that clarity that the heart offers. And in that sense, then your heart, when that interference is minimized, your heart can be in it, in the workplace, in fact, in everything you do. More heart function also does not reduce something else, in particular function of the mind. In fact, when the heart is strong, it has a very supportive function for the function of the mind. So it's not either or, it's as well as. With the depth of the heart being a deeper place of knowing, also clarity of purpose can come, the connection to the deeper parts that are part of an organizational vision or mission, and it will be much easier than for employees, staff, managers to buy in. And as you would know, staff engagement is also a growing body of research and concern in organizations, people coming to work and not really being present. So let's move to the next slide. So what Ivan and I had thought of, we want to offer you some practical examples, because this is quite new. Again, this has only been in Australia for around 12 years, and yet there's been regular programs in workplaces, health services, business, not-for-profit, and also in government organizations. So the first exercise, we want to give you an example where heart and brain work together, just for you to feel that. So the invitation is really for you now to sit on your chair in your workplace and participate in those exercises to give you an experience of at some level of your own heart function. And please don't be concerned, because we all have a heart. We have both hearts, physical heart, non-physical heart. And it's something quite safe to do. So the first example, I would like to invite you to look at this formula, and we talk about the rest of the content of the slide later. So just take a pen, piece of paper, and please don't use your iPhone or Android or your calculator on the computer. This is very clever, of course, to do that. We would like you to manually work out the first formula. So what is the answer to 12 times 27? So please take some time now to at least attempt to work it out. Yeah, and do it with a grain of salt. So try to work out how much is 12 times 27. Of course, Stephanie, you're welcome to participate too. Then 35 times 87, even if you haven't completed the earlier one, just move on to the next one. And then 123 times 235, just have a go at it again, even if you haven't completed the earlier one. And now just pause for a moment and just connect with your own body and feel, where do you feel activity, energy, pressure, or anything similar. Now, if you're sensitive and quite relaxed while you have done these mathematical formulas, you can feel that there is activity, pressure, busyness, some energy up in our head, mind, brain area. So that is the first kind of warm-up exercise, if you like. Now, the second exercise, if you like to join, please sit back on your chair. I just briefly outline the exercise. So it is very helpful just to be relaxed, to also eventually close your eyes. And we are inviting you to recall a positive, happy moment from some time back in your life. So that's really all we do. But then there'll be some additional heart coaching if you like. So it's quite easy, quite simple exercise. So if you like, please feel welcome to join. So with your feet maybe flat on the floor, relaxed, sitting back with your buttocks right against the back of the chair, also leaning back, and your arms somewhere quite relaxed on your lap or legs, thighs. Now please close your eyes and just have the head also in a relaxed position. So please close your eyes then and just recall very beautiful, special moments sometime back in your life. And then once you have the moment, just stay with that one, so don't keep searching. Just stay with one happy moment, special, joyful, etc. And now just feel, recall the feelings you had in that moment without being too busy or concerned about the details of the event. So recall the feelings, the experiences, the feelings you had in that moment without being too concerned or not concerned at all with the details of the event. And then just become aware before you open your eyes again, or if your eyes are already open, not a problem. So just become aware of where is the activity, where do you feel the nice, joyful, happy feelings that you have recalled. So not everyone is the same. Some people feel a buzzing throughout the whole body, but quite few participants in workshops, and this is really the very early part to pointing out the functions of the heart. So many people feel some warmth somewhere in the center of the chest, where the non-physical heart, of course, the physical heart also is located. And this exercise you can repeat several times. because the heart is so special. Even when we recall the heart's function through a past event, it will strengthen the heart and overall heart condition. So that's still a fairly indirect exercise. Now, the next clip I briefly talk about and really suggest you listen to Sue's clip. Sue already on the clip looks quite happy, but Sue had 2 diagnosed mental health conditions, and she shares throughout the video a little bit about her journey and also where she is at now, back at work, change of career, and so on. And because Work Safe Month has a mental health focus, our presentation has, we share with you the stories in the clips of 2 individuals, including Ivan, my co-presenter, of people who have suffered from mental health illness, mental health conditions, and have found immense support through their own heart learning and heart journey. We now would like to share with you in theory and practice how do we activate our heart center. Now this looks very simple for the brain, but I believe in the English language is saying the heart is deep. The heart is deeper than any oceans. Of course, as we start to use the direct activation of the heart function, we can start to tap into the heart and then start to over time explore, connect with the full function or fuller function of the heart and all its benefits. So in quite simple ways, there's only 5 steps to the activation of the heart. The first one is we need to be quite relaxed. And why this is so? Because we have the body-brain connection. When we are really much in the brain, thinking a lot, you may know that your body becomes more tight and is physically tensing up. So reverse is the case too. When your body is quite relaxed, your brain also can become calmer, can reduce its activity or even overactivity. That's why we long to relax when we are away from work, because there is some conscious or less conscious knowing about that. There's also the importance to close the eyes during this heart function activation or heart strengthening. The eyes, of course, we know they feed information to the brain continuously. So as we close our eyes, that flow is stopped for some period of time. We can relax more, focus more on our feeling in this exercise, focus more on the heart. We then want to touch the heart. Now we touch the heart not to do something, but it gently assists focusing on the heart area, similar to the earlier 2 exercises. It has a chance to bring the tendency to be up in the brain, use the brain literally every moment of our life. Bring it down to our heart center, connect us more to our own heart, well, which in turn stimulates your mind too. But we need to start to have extra help to connect more to the heart or heart center. The next one is a little bit unusual. We then invite participants to smile. Now, smiling is, of course, something we like to do when we are posing for a family photograph or any picture of Facebook or selfies or whatever we do these days. Smiling, of course, also releases endorphins into the brain. There's a gentle enhancement of our levels of relaxation, even happiness, and we simply look more beautiful when we smile. So at another level also is the heart, the smiling naturally will reduce activity of the brain. And if directed to the heart, it will start to connect to the heart, and in some way it will function as if there are invisible strings from the corners of your lips to the doors, the access to your heart. And as you smile and physically smile too, it will start to impact on the activity and openness of the heart. And then as you feel, or as the participants feel in an activity like that, feeling will keep you where the heart is, because it is quite natural to want to jump up in the brain. What is happening? What is going on? Should I do something else? That is the kind of commentary the heart, the mind will have all the time. So as we keep feeling and keeping on smiling, there's a chance to stay more in that heart connection for 1, 2, 3 minutes. Will make a big difference if we do that regularly. What we would like to do now, whoever is adventurous enough or belief has a heart, that is me being trying to be funny, I guess, or whoever wants to experiment. Yeah, this is the connection to the heart. These are the basic steps of the heart activities we have run in the community, in workplaces, and of course there's a high degree of refinement and depth supporting exercises. So if you like, please take another moment, turn your attention away from the computer screen. This will take 3-4 minutes. So again, ideally have your feet both touching the floor. You're sitting on your chair fairly upright with your body quite relaxed, the arms, hands, wherever they naturally can fall, and support that being you being quite relaxed. And your head also should be in a position with eventually the eyes closed, of course, as if you were looking forward. So try not to have the head tilted down. If any one of you is an NLP practitioner or have read about NLP, head facing down also makes you think more. So head in a neutral position, and then we invite you just to relax your body. Closing your eyes will also help. So if you close your eyes, relax your body, and perhaps spend a few moments, just feel your whole left arm, feel your whole right arm, and then feel both arms together, and feel your left leg. Allow it to naturally relax more. Feel your right leg, allow it to naturally relax more. And feel both your legs together. And then feel both your arms, both your legs, and allow both your arms, your legs to naturally relax. And then also feel that muscle, the temporomandibular muscle that is under the ears, holding the jaws together or opening the jaws. So just allow your jaw to drop a little bit. You will look quite silly if you like to do that, and allow the jaws to drop open. Move the jaws perhaps a little bit left to right to completely relax that muscle. That muscle often is a reflection of the tension we hold in our whole body. So as you relax that muscle, your whole body can also become more relaxed. And then just allow your jaws to naturally close, or at least the lips to close, but that muscle to stay relaxed. And feel your whole body for a few moments as relaxed as it can be right now. And wherever you still hold some tension, even small degree, just allow those parts also to relax a tiny bit more. Every part of relaxation will support that heart connection. And then still with your eyes closed, no need to look. We invite you to bring one of your hands to the center of your chest. And you want to have 1 or 2 fingers touching that center part of the chest. So exactly on your sternum, your chest bone. And you can draw a line from your armpit area. So just in front of your armpit, draw a line across towards the other armpit. And where you reach the sternum, the chest bone, just gently touch that with 1 or 2 fingers. And that physical touch will stimulate your non-physical heart to some degree. And now just keep relaxing as you do that. And keep or start to feel this area. Somewhere under your fingers, just intend to feel your heart, your non-physical heart, or just feel this area under your fingers. And then without thinking how it may work or even how to do it, we invite you now to smile to your heart. And if possible, allow that smile to show on your face too. And now just keep smiling for some moments, smile freely. Only one intention to smile to the heart is needed and nothing else. So just for some moments now, just keep relaxing. Keep touching that center point at the heart gently. And keep smiling freely to your heart. And now just keep feeling. Just feel and keep feeling and give it time. Without adding to it, without opening the eyes ideally, and simply keeping on smiling, which is unusual to start with, but just do your best, whatever is possible, smiling naturally and freely to your heart. Now what can help is if for a brief moment you stop smiling altogether, but you keep your eyes closed and you keep feeling. And then smile again. So smile again, stretch the lips a tiny bit if possible. Smile again and feel and relax. Yeah, and keep going, keep smiling, keep feeling, keep relaxing. Wonderful, yeah. And now if you're sensitive, of course this is the first time if you are joining us now, you may feel not much, but sometimes people feel a sense of lightness, calmness. If you check in with the overall busyness of your mind, you may feel there's a reduction possibly of the continuous flow of mental activity and so on. So this is a small introduction we would like to share with you about the heart. Yeah. It may be some people, 20 to 30% maybe, or sometimes less than 20%. They even start to feel a joyfulness, need to giggle, etc. Now, because the heart is the collector of all experiences, so you may, in your heart, responding, becoming more active. There may be a response also of some sadness, couple of tears coming. That in a sense is a good sign. It means your heart has responded to the exercise. Your heart has cleansed some of those deposits, and only with a small amount of those positive deposits you are connecting, and as an expression that we experience as an emotion. In instances like that, we invite the participants to continue following the feeling in the heart, to cleanse not only the deposit and that sadness perhaps that come to the surface, but some of the root system underneath all. So negativities can not only be stored around the heart, but they can also penetrate into our non-physical heart or center of feeling. And sometimes we don't feel first few times, but underneath the heart is working. And often, of course, our brain has been trained a lot and is predominantly quite strong in our daily life. Now, Pastor Ivan to talk just briefly about his experience, but I'm just looking at the time, Ivan. Perhaps we give the links to participants. They will be given. This is Ivan, our lovely presenter, co-presenter. So please, if you have the time, watch either Sue's or Ivan's clips or both. So heart-based well-being, resilience, happiness developing programs are comparatively new. It's an innovative delivery also that assists higher levels of retention of learning and more so the direct heart experiences and continued heart function. So what that means is a heart-based training program will, number one, relate to workplace issues, whether they are issues of supervisory skill enhancement, customer service, team dynamics, or more straightforward well-being program. They're always tailored to the workplace, also organizational aims, team aims, and so on. They're in the workplace, they can be in a boardroom, in a training room, so we don't need any special exercises. No skills are needed, no ability, no physical ability, etc., which is often the case in physical workplace programs, that some people are deterred who are, let's say, overweight, etc., or haven't exercised for a long time. We literally only offer a phased delivery, so we deliver sessions over 2-3 times, which introduce structured sequential hard learning programs or program elements, and then in between people are given exercises to implement and practice and apply to the workplace, and the retention and impact is much higher than in a one-day program. We offer follow-up and ongoing support. Ongoing support normally means for anything between 1 and 6 months we come in, offer short 1-hour sessions to keep people practicing, to keep people connected, to keep people benefiting, even deepening whatever they have learned in the program. We use multimedia tools, a whole range of handouts, video clips, audio recordings, and so on. So some of the past program aims or purposes were, I've mentioned some of them, so clearly preventative health, mental health support, stress management is often and has often been a cause. Recently organizations have approached us because this is one national organization. Their entire mission is changing to a mission of service from the heart, customer service, improvement of focus, mental clarity, productivity. Ivan earlier referred to creativity. There's a clear correlation we are starting to explore between creativity and heart strength. It's a powerful personal growth initiative. There are leadership programs, decision-making programs available where the heart-centered learning is at the core of those programs. So in summary, and to review, heart learning has shown new levels of benefits, an avenue to direct emotional learning, emotional clearing, improving individual levels of health and well-being and happiness, but also changing team dynamics. It is trainable, and some of you who have started to study or research emotional intelligence, there's broadly 2 schools. One school says you either have it or you don't, and the other school says it's kind of learnable and trainable. Heart is in some way a key function to support individual well-being, which of course naturally impacts on the workplace, but on the individual's whole life. And increased calmness and happiness support individual organizational effectiveness and outcomes, as we briefly touched upon. So that includes our webinar, and we now invite comments, questions, suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Klaus and Ivan. And as Ivan just mentioned, if anyone does have any questions that you would like to submit, there's certainly time left before the webinar does conclude this morning. So do type your questions into the questions pane in the control panel on the right-hand side. So if anyone would like Klaus or Ivan's contact details, they're certainly there. So please do take note of them. As I said, we are recording the webinars during WorkSafe Month. So and that information will be available also on the webinar when we do make them available on the WorkSafe site.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, just wanted to say thanks very much for the opportunity to present today. It's been enjoyable, and I hope you've got something out of it.
So some positive, just to let you know, Klaus and Ivan, some positive comments have come through in regards to your presentation. So I think relaxation was certainly part of it, and lightening up the heart.
Look, probably, Stephanie, I might just mention that I'm in the last couple of months of publishing a book which will have the title that Your Heart Can Help. The Answer is Within You. The complete guide to your non-physical heart or center of feeling for fulfillment in your family, work, social, personal life, and this, etc. Longer subtitle. So please keep an eye out for it, because this is so new, the learning, and yet it has impacted so many people. Also at the Lotus Center in Hobart, which is near Centre Point Car Park, sessions have grown from 1 session a week to 40 weekly heart strengthening sessions, heart meditation sessions. So this is not just for the workplace. There's been a massive growth in community programs as people find the joy and the need and the benefits to connect to their quality more.
All right, thank you very much for that, Klaus.
And look, if
What just a one question that has come through. What would be a 30-second cell that we could take back to management from this topic?
a 30-second cell back to management. I guess the importance of emotional intelligence, and that when the heart is in it, we are present at work. Hello. You can see I'm not a salesperson. I'm a passionate facilitator. We talk about it a lot. We talk about the heart. We long for that deeper level of intelligence and connection, whether it's internally with team members or externally, and yet we are not quite sure how to get there. And the heart is the direct way to get there.
Okay.
If I could just add to that also. I mean, one of the great things that we get out of a more open heart is happiness, and there's a lot of research now around happiness and the benefits that come with having a happier workforce, and that includes some of the stuff I talked about earlier. So more creative workers, more productive workers, workers who relate better to each other. You know, so it affects the bottom line, and this program is one that can, I think, have a massive impact on not only the health and well-being of staff, but also the way that the workplace functions.
Okay, thank you very much for. Keep going, Ivan.
And look, probably in support of what Ivan says, there's a fantastic book out that is titled Delivering Happiness. And Delivering Happiness is one of the best-selling management books now in the US. And that is a fantastic read, how total focus on staff well-being and staff happiness and staff growth has a massive impact on the bottom line. So, and in Delivering Happiness is reference to another resource called Tribal Management. And you may not like the title, but in the Tribal Management book, there is a whole body of research that supports what Ivan has just said, that when staff are happy, when teams function, the bottom line changes, the outcomes changes, the service, customer, client, patient service massively improves. And in some way, the heart is, again, is the key for a direct way to higher levels of, deeper levels of emotional intelligence.
Okay, thank you very much, Klaus and Ivan, for your presentation this afternoon. The heart is in it, and thank you everyone as well for attending today's webinar. If you do have any other questions, Klaus and Ivan's details were presented in the last slide. We will be sending through the YouTube clips that we didn't get a chance to play, so for anyone who did participate, you will receive that shortly. And again, once you do leave today's webinar, you will receive a survey, and we would appreciate you completing that and providing us with your feedback. So on behalf of WorkSafe Tasmania and our presenters today, thank you very much for joining us, and have a great, safe and healthy rest of the day. Thank you.